stepwise. I'm showing you the converted process because it's over easier to accept. Okay, so the base is going to be propane, the proton for the nitrogen, and that's going to force these electrons to come out and attack this metal group. Okay, so they attack this metal group. And remember that that metal group is a really hot electrophile. Why is it a hot electrophile? Because the sulfur atom is attached and has a positive charge. It doesn't particularly like to be like that. Now, if you attack that metal group, you have to have a leaving group, right? This is a simple bimolecular substitution reaction. That's also something that's important. This is an SN2, one of the few SN2s we'll actually see in biochemistry. So when those electrons attack that metal group, there has to be a leaving group. And the leaving group, I'll do this electrons in light blue, the leaving group is just the whole rest of this molecule. And actually, one thing I should go ahead and correct you notice is, let me go ahead and erase this. Let me go ahead and erase that. This molecule that's right here, this one is often abbreviated SA, is often abbreviated SAH, and because this molecule is S-adenosylmethionine. Okay? So whenever S-adenosylmethionine or SAM, whenever SAM transfers a metal group, the leaving group or the product is always S-adenosylmethionine. And so in this particular reaction, we took one phenyl acetate, transferred the nitrogen, a methyl group to nitrogen, and generated creatine. And so the product of this reaction, the part of the creatine, is going to be S-adenosylmethionine. So when you come back up here and look at the SAM cycle, which is what the cycle is called, notice that they say a variety of methyltransferases, because there are a whole bunch of them. There's O methyltransferases, N methyltransferases, C methyltransferases, and so the product is going to be methyl. But the leaving group of the actual SN2 reaction is going to be S-adenosylmethionine. It's going to be, oh, that's up there. It's going to be S-adenosylmethionine. I'm having trouble seeing what else because the product is S-adenosylmethionine. However, we have to regenerate S-adenosylmethionine somehow. It turns out that S-adenosylmethionine is pretty worthless. So what we're going to do is use an enzyme called S-adenosylmethionine hydrolase. And essentially what S-adenosylmethionine hydrolase is going to do is it's simply going to do an SN2 reaction. It's going to do an SN2 reaction, and it's going to cleave off homocysteine. And if you notice, homocysteine is basically cysteine with an extra methylene group in the middle, so I'm labeling it. Here's the extra methylene group in the middle, and that's what homocysteine is. It's the alternate version of cysteine, and it's the product of S-adenosylmethionine hydrolase. In other words, what the enzyme is going to do is it's going to do an SN2 reaction on adenosine and take off homocysteine, this leaving group. Now what we're about to see is we're about to actually see another biosynthesis. We're about to actually see one of the ways we synthesize methionine, and the enzyme that does this is called methionine synthase. Now this particular enzyme requires two coenzymes. One of them is vitamin B12, also called cobalamin, and the other one is N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And the reason it's called N5-methyl is because this particular methyl group right here is attached to nitrogen number 5 on tetrahydrofolate, so you call it N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And if you're actually looking at the biosynthesis of tetrahydrofolate, which I recommend you go back and do, we have a video on that, this is synthesized directly from N5, N10, methylene. Oops, let's come down here and do that. N5, N10, methylene. N5, N10, methylene. Tetrahydrofolate. And that gets converted irreversibly to N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate by the action of N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, which happens to be an NADPH-dependent reductase. Now, you would think that the methyl transfer of a simple SN2 between homocysteine and N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, but the mechanism is a lot more convoluted than that. It's really complicated. The actual methyl group is going to be transferred first to vitamin B12, synthesizing methylcobalamin, and then methylcobalamin will then transfer the methyl to methionine, or excuse me, to homocysteine, making methionine. Okay? So there's actually an intermediate that goes through which vitamin B12 as the methyl group, and then homocysteine takes the methyl to make methionine. Okay. So now that we have methionine, now what we need to do is transfer the adenosine onto it. And this is accomplished by the action of methionine adenosyl transferase. And notice that in the process of this, not only do we take on phosphate, but we also take on pyrophosphate. And one of the good things about this reaction is that the pyrophosphate, the inorganic pyrophosphate, can be consumed by inorganic pyrophosphatase, a hydrolytic enzyme that cleaves inorganic pyrophosphate into two inorganic phosphates. And that releases free energy. That exergonic reaction is used to drive work inside the cell. And one of the really sort of bizarre things about this particular pathway that you don't see anywhere else is, for the most part, every single reaction in here, with the exception of inorganic pyrophosphatase, for the most part, all the reactions in some way contain an SN2. Notice that the methyltransferase reaction that we just looked at, that's an SN2, right? We looked at one amino acetate in methyltransferase. The base propane and the nitrogen and those electrons attacked the methyl group. Loss of the leaving group was S-adenosylhomocysteine, so that was an SN2, right? Also, the S-adenylhomocystine hydrolase is also an SN2 with homocysteine as a leaving group. Okay? So a lot of the enzymes in here, including the 9 adenosyl are simple biomolecular substitutions. That is a very, very unusual thing. Most pathways don't even contain an enzyme, so very, very unusual. So let's do a quick recap of this cycle. This is, remember, again, the half cycle, or also called the S-adenosyl cycle. And we start with S-adenosyl-methionine. And with S-adenosyl-methionine will transfer its methyl group to various substrates, and they're going to be enzymatic reactions. We don't take one amino acid and methyl transferase, but certainly, say we were looking at the biosynthesis of epinephrine, we could have been looking at phenylmethanolamine and methyl transferase, or if we're looking at the degradation of dopamine, we could have looked at catechol and methyl transferase. So the naming of methyl transferase sort of gives away that it uses NAM. Okay, that gives us the leading group of S-adenosyl homocysteine. Then S-adenosyl homocysteine hydrolase is going to do an SN2 and hydrolyze off homocysteine, regenerating adenosine. Okay, and then the homocysteine is going to get consumed by methionine synthase. And so N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is synthesized from N5-ethylmethylene tetrahydrofolate by the action of N5-ethylmethylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, is going to transfer its methyl group first to vitamin B12, generating what's known as methylcobalamin. And then methylcobalamin is going to transfer its methyl group to homocysteine, generating methionine. Then the methionine is going to get an adenosine group added to its sulfur by the action of methionine adenosine transferase. Now notice that per cycle, this is going to consume 1 ATP, right? And you're going to be constantly doing methyl transferring, right? Your DNA, every time you replicate your DNA, there's many methyl transferase reactions that occur. Biosynthesis largely requires methyl transferring, okay? And as we already saw, the synthesis of epinephrine, the degradation of all catecholamines requires this. There's countless other examples of enzymes that use S-adenosyl-methionine. So this tells you that it is so important that the cell is willing to waste 1 ATP per cycle of the SAM cycle. That's how important this is. It's willing to waste that much energy. So it's an energetically expensive process, but absolutely vital to the cell. So I hope this gave you a little bit of intuition on the S-adenosyl-methionine cycle. See you in the next video. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about a very strange aspect of amino acid metabolism. It's strange because up until this point, we've only dealt with catabolic pathways for L amino acids. But keep in mind that in some bacterial structures, we have D amino acids. Well, what happens when we have a D amino acid? Well, it turns out that the enzymes we have for L amino acids can't really deal with them very well. So we have to use other means to metabolize D amino acids. So what I want you to bear in mind is I haven't drawn or indicated stereochemistry here, but assume that this amino acid right here is the D isomer. Okay, just make that assumption. Okay? And so what we have to understand about the D amino acid oxidation is it requires molecular oxygen, a critical serine residue, water, a D amino acid, and FAD. So this flavin that's up here at the top, this is flavin as the dinucleotide. Okay? And obviously the R prime up there is the ribosyl plus the ADP down there. Okay? So the very first step in the mechanism is going to be a deprotonation of a critical serine residue in the active site. Okay? And it's going to be water that's in the active site. And this water is in there pretty tightly. It's not like a water that just automatically comes in. It's in the active site for good. Okay? So that water comes and deprotonates the serine residue. And as the serine residue gets deprotonated, it extracts a proton from the alpha of the amino acid. And that causes the formation of a shift base by forming a double bond between the nitrogen and the alpha carbon. Keep in mind that this is the alpha carbon right here. Right? And that forces the alpha hydrogen off as a hydride. And it's going to come and attack this nitrogen on the FAD ring. And what ends up happening is you get a double bond rearrangement. So this pi bond ends up right here, and this pi bond ends up as a lone pair on this nitrogen. So what you should expect to see in the next FAD derivative structure is a negative charge right here on that nitrogen. You see that. Okay. Now, in this step of the mechanism, what's about to happen is we're about to see our first instance of flavin electron transfer using radical electrons. Okay, so what's effectively going to happen is this double bond that's right here, this double bond right here, this double bond, is actually going to deliver one of its electrons onto molecular oxygen. Now, what I want you to bear in mind is this. Keep in mind, and they may not have taught you this in biochemistry or chem or whatever, but this is actually the correct structure of molecular oxygen. The reason they draw it with a double bond ordinarily is because when you do the calculations, you have a bond order of 2, but that is not the correct structure. In fact, what you can really view it as is if you have the double bond oxygen, what effectively happens is you have a homologic bond cleavage of pi bond. And so each one of the electrons from that pi bond ends up on the opposite oxygen atom. So this right here is actually the correct structure. And this is the structure by which the electron is extracted from the FAD. Okay, so these electrons take back up onto as a pi bond on FAD. And what's going to happen is, let me do this in blue, this pi bond right here, one of the electrons is going to end up as a radical right there. And specifically it's on this carbon that I just highlighted. The other electron that's part of the pi electron system is going to end up adding onto molecular oxygen right here. So your initial product, as we'll see in the next picture, is actually going to be superoxide. Okay, so this molecule right here, this is superoxide. Okay? Now, at physiological pH, and positioning in the active site here, superoxide will not take up a proton even though it has a negative charge. And the reason The reason that it generally doesn't pick up the proton is because one of those electrons can sort of be in a pseudo-resonance between both opposite atoms. So it doesn't have, it's not basic enough to pick up a proton. But what's going to happen essentially is this superoxide, it's the oxygen that has the radical electron, is going to couple with the radical electron that's on the FAD. Okay, so this electron right here is going to couple with this one right here. And so what you should expect to see now is a peroxide linkage now attached to the FAD. Okay, and as that linkage is being formed, as you can see right here, the electron lone pair that's right here on the other oxygen atom is going to re-extract a proton from the hydronium that we generated in the first step. And of course that regenerates the water molecule that we had at the beginning. Okay, keep in mind that water molecule was in there pretty tightly. What we're about to see is called a cyclic intramolecular elimination. So these electrons right here are going to come out and extract the proton from this nitrogen, and that's going to force these electrons between the hydrogen and nitrogen to form a double bond right here, and as a result, you end up losing hydrogen peroxide. Okay, you end up losing hydrogen peroxide. So we observe that product right here, this is hydrogen peroxide. And in the process, what that does is it regenerates our FAD, and that's this right here. This molecule right here is our FAD. Well, now we've regenerated FAD, but there should be a burning question in your mind, and that question is, what happens to the original G amino acid? Remember that we formed the shift base in the first step of the mechanism. Well, we still have that shift base, and it exits the active site. Now, what I want to be perfectly clear about is the step that we're about to see is going to be a shift base hydrolysis, as you might expect, but this is not catalyzed by the enzyme. This actually is proven to occur once this molecule, this protein shift base, once it leaves the active site. So once it leaves the active site, it's going to undergo spontaneous shift base hydrolysis. Okay, let's look at that now. Okay, now, if you need help on predicting products of shift base hydrolysis, I highly recommend you do that. At this point, I think it's something you should be able to do off the top of your head. So effectively what's going to happen is the water is specifically going to attack this carbon right here. It's going to attack this carbon, and when you do the complete shift base hydrolysis, you should get an alpha keto acid. So this molecule right here, this is an alpha keto acid, and you should get ammonia. So these are your two products of the shift base hydrolysis after the G amino acid oxidation mechanism. Okay? In a separate video, we'll actually look at the metabolism of those alpha keto acids, and to some extent, you already know them. Well, now we've seen the mechanism of amino acid oxidation. The question is, why would you ever want to learn about this? Well, let's think about something. Let's say I want to go eat an apple. And actually, it really doesn't matter if you cook the food or eat it cold or whatever. It really doesn't matter. On some level, always, you're going to be ingesting bacteria. Okay, you can't avoid it. Even if you cook something, there's an astronomically slim chance that you're not getting bacteria. Okay, you're constantly going to be ingesting bacteria. In fact, you might be breathing in bacteria as we speak, as terrifying as that sounds. Okay, and whenever you get the bacterial cells in your stomach, obviously the pepsin and the hydrochloric acid denature and degrade the proteins, and eventually you're going to get them down to amino acids. Well, it turns out that bacteria are able to actually convert some of their L amino acids into G amino acids, and they can actually incorporate those G amino acids into proteins. Okay, a classic example of an area where you can find these is the cell wall, specifically peptidoglycan. Peptidoglycan is known for having G amino acids in it, and obviously you only find peptidoglycan in bacteria for the most part. Okay, that's what we're constraining ourselves with. Okay, so the bacteria that you ingest have G amino acids. It's two very common G amino acids are going to be G-alanine and G-glutamate. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at a hypothetical here. What would happen? What would be the potential products of G amino acid oxidase reacted with these amino acids? Okay, and just bear in mind, you can't possibly avoid getting bacteria. It's impossible. It doesn't matter what you eat, what precautions you take, you're going to get bacteria. It's not like they're going to be super harmful, but you are going to degrade them down to G amino acids. Okay, so let's deal with that now. Okay, so we have G-alanine here as the first example, and what I've done is I've essentially drawn you the initial product, and that's of course the shift base that G amino acid oxidase generates. But keep in mind the mechanism of that shift base, or we could say that protein shift base, is going to leave the active site, and it's going to undergo spontaneous hydrolysis. And keep in mind the water in this case is going to attack this carbon. And my question to you is, what are the products? Well, if you're degrading G-alanine, well, you're going to get this product, right? If you have complete shift base hydrolysis, you're going to get this and ammonia. And my question to you is, what is the first molecule that I grew? Well, that's just pyruvate, right? That's pyruvate, right? This is pyruvate, and we know that in some cells, specifically peripheral tissue cells, we can say extrahepatic cells, they'll just run the pyruvate into the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, and you can generate acetyl-CoA, and that will go into the TCA cycle. So that's one instance in which we can actually directly deal with the problem. Okay, it actually benefits us energetically. Okay, now one thing I do want to have you bear in mind with the amino acid oxidase is that we are generating this very toxic product, which is hydrogen peroxide. Now, it's not like we don't have ways to deal with it. In fact, we actually have a way to metabolize hydrogen peroxide, and that's using the enzyme catalase. Okay, catalase effectively removes hydrogen peroxide. It's expressed at very high amounts in the peroxisome. That's pretty handy because a place where G amino acids tend to react with this enzyme is in the peroxisome. So nature has already given us a way to to deal with that. Okay. Now, what I want you to bear in mind is that if you were to have this hydrogen peroxide going willy-nilly throughout the cell, keep in mind what would happen. Okay. Assuming you're in the absence of iron, in which case you have a Fetzer reaction, hydrogen peroxide can just spontaneously do a homolytic bond cleavage. And what you would have after this reaction would be two hydroxyl radicals. And keep in mind that that hydroxyl radical in the oxygen is not tied up in any kind of resonance. There's nothing to shield it. It's very high energy, very reactive. And so if you just had hydrogen peroxide floating willy-nilly, you'd have spontaneous homolytic bond cleavages. Those hydroxyl radicals could oxidize proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, things like that, things that are not good from a cell's perspective. So it's a good thing that we had catalase in the old hydrogen peroxide. Okay, but anyways, yeah, so if we were to completely oxidize D-alanine, we're going to get pyruvate. And I don't think that's a big insight on the world. I think that you almost could have guessed that, right? We already saw what happened to L-alanine. That just reacted with L-alanine transaminase, right? And we got pyruvate. So I don't think it's a big surprise that D-alanine can integrate as a pyruvate, okay? We're also going to see something fairly similar in the next reaction. So in the next reaction, we're going to see this D-stereochemistry, the alpha carbon, and this is D-glutamate. This is D-glutamate. Well, I've gone ahead and drawn the ship-base version of D-glutamate, and that is the product after the amino acid oxidase does this reaction, okay? And again, we're going to have ship-base hydrolysis. Once this protein ship-base exits the active site of the enzyme, right? And again, we're going to have water that targets that further. And my question to you is, what are the products? Well, you should be able to predict ship-base hydrolysis products at this point. But if you can't, here's one product we get, and of course we also get ammonia. And my question to you is this: what is that first product that I drew? Well, you should be able to recognize that that's alpha-ketoglutarate from the TCA cycle. So assuming that we are in extra-hepatic tissue, generally what's going to happen is the alpha-ketoglutarate is just going to go into the TCA cycle. And also, even if we are a liver cell, it's just going to run through the TCA cycle, or it's going to react with various transaminases. Okay, so alpha-ketoglutarate, we can benefit energetically from that as well, but also bear in mind that we are generating hydrogen peroxide. But thank God we have a way to deal with that, and that's catalase. Okay? All right, the last one's not a G amino acid at all. And my question to you is, first of all, what is that amino acid? And second, why doesn't it have T or L stereochemistry? And to answer the question, it's glycine. Glycine is achiral. So you can't define a T or L just like you can't define an R and S. Glycine is achiral, it has no stereocenter, so it's not T or L. However, it still can react with the amino acid oxidation. Now, when you do the initial oxidation to the protein ship-base, it just molecule right here. My question to you is, what, again, are going to be the hydrolysis products when that molecule leaves the active site? Well, again, you're going to target that carbon. And when you do the ship-base hydrolysis, again, you're going to get ammonia. I won't draw that again, but you're going to get this molecule right here. Okay? This molecule is an aldehyde. Okay? In fact, if you were to do D-amino acid oxidation on any of the D-amino acids, regardless of what they are, this is the only one that's going to give you an aldehyde. And the reason it's the only one that's going to give you an aldehyde is the only one whose R group is a hydrogen. Okay, so all the other ones will be ketones. This is the only one where you'll get an aldehyde. And this molecule right here, this molecule is called glyoxylate. This is called glyoxylate. Now, glyoxylate really has one of two states, and we'll look at those now. Okay? Glyoxylate is an aldehyde. Okay, let's look at the first state. Glyoxylate can actually react with a member of the aldehyde dehydrogenase. And recall that those are two simple NAD-dependent oxidations. So you do it like this. So initially, you should have NAD comes in, is reduced to NADH, right? And then water is going to come in, right, as a terminal nucleophile. And what you should get out of this is you should get something that looks like this. So we're still keeping this carboxylate right here, but this one should also be a carboxylate, right? And another way we could draw this molecule is like this. We could also write it right like this. Okay? And this molecule is called oxalate. This is called oxalate, okay? And one of the things that's interesting about oxalate is, and whether or not this is a problem with amino acid oxidation is unknown, and quite frankly, it's an active area of research. But it's known that oxalate and its salts, which are calcium oxalate, so calcium can actually have an electrostatic interaction with oxalate. Calcium oxalate salts are a huge component of kidney cells. So kind of a question that you should sort of keep in the back of your mind is, could it be possible that something wrong with this pathway is part of the reason why people get kidney stones, or at least it's a contribution to kidney stones? Because we know for a fact that calcium oxalate is a major constituent of the actual solid mass of the kidney stone. Now, it's not to say that this definitely is the case, but it's certainly an active area of research. Okay. There's one other main reaction that glyoxylate can do, and glyoxylate can react with an enzyme called glyoxylate alanine aminotransferase. So this enzyme is called, we'll see a GLX, GLX, alanine, and then transaminase, so transaminase. And just like all transaminases, it's a pyridoxal phosphate-dependent reaction. Okay, now let's draw the structure of alanine. Let's draw the structure of alanine. So alanine is going to look like this. Right? So you can say that one of the degradation products of glyoxylate metabolism through this enzyme is glycine. What about the other one? Well, remember, they're effective substitutions between amines and carbonyls. Well, I have this amine, right? What happens if I replace that with a carbonyl? Well, I'm just going to get this molecule, and this molecule you should recognize as pyruvate, okay? This pyruvate. So ultimately, if I have a glyoxylate, so I generate deamino acid oxidase reacting with glycine, you're going to get a glycine out of it. But effectively, what this enzyme does is it takes alanine and converts it into pyruvate. Okay, so in the beginning of this scheme, we start with a glycine. We end up with a glycine, so there's no net change there. But it will effectively, through these two reactions, take an alanine and convert it into pyruvate. And you know that in extrahepatic tissues especially, that pyruvate can react with the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, right? Pyruvate dehydrogenase. And then that will generate acetyl-CoA, which will go into the TCA cycle, and we can benefit energetically from that. Okay? So this is effectively the effective state of our D-amino acids. They're going to react with D-amino acid oxidase, and then various other transformations can occur from there. Now, one other thing I do want to mention very briefly, and this is sort of a takeaway message. Okay? It was once thought, and maybe you still think this yourself, and it might be possible if your teacher doesn't even know this, but it turns out that humans can actually biosynthesize D-amino acids. And there's only one that's known that we can synthesize, okay? And that is D-serine. So if you look at the structure of serine, it looks like this. Keep in mind that serine is R group. This is a hydroxymethyl group.